Namami Buddham Gunasaгаrantam Santa Sada Hontu Sukhi Avera Kayo Jiguncho Sakalo Dugandho Gachanti Sabbe Maranam Ahancha Samanta Cakkavalesu Atra Gacchantu Devata Saddammang Munirajassa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadam Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Vinja uppatataṃ settha avinja nipatataṃ vara Sangho pavajamanānaṃ buddho pavadataṃ varo Homage to the exalted one, the worthy one, the perfectly enlightened one. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear friends in the Dhamma, all of you are warmly welcome. Today we are going to discuss wisdom in Buddhism. Buddha says one time that Vijja uppatataṃ settha. Wisdom is the best of things that rise up. Wisdom is the best of things that rise up. And avidya nipatataṃ varo. Ignorance excels among things that fall down. That is a very meaningful stanza. Wisdom is the best of things that rise up, and ignorance excels among things that fall down. You know, everyone likes their success. We do everything for the success of our life. Success is the main wish of everyone. For a successful life, we do a lot of things. We try to improve our employment, education, money, everything. Day by day, we should try to go forward in our education, employment, money, property, wealth. We do everything for the success in our life. When we are rich, when we are well educated, sometimes we think that we are successful. We succeed. Do we succeed? Do we succeed when we are well educated, when we are very rich? No. If we are unhappy, even though we are well educated, we are not successful. The main purpose of everyone is happiness. We do everything in our day-to-day life in the name of happiness, but day by day we go away from happiness. What is the reason? We mostly trust in outside persons and materials. We don't trust in ourselves, in our mental conditions. That is why we go away from real happiness. For the happiness, people may think that if we have a lot of children who are well educated, and if we have a lot of friends who are very rich and educated, we are happy. People usually think that. Even though we have a lot of children who are well educated and rich, actually we are not happy. What is the reason? Sometimes our mind is polluted with negative thoughts. That is why we are unhappy. Even though we have a lot of friends and relatives who are well educated, we have no real happiness because we have no inner peace. That is why step by step we should go to the deeper level. Success is the main purpose of everyone. For success, people do everything in the world. But we usually do everything for happiness. If we are unhappy, we are not successful. Happiness is the other purpose of everyone. Happiness. Even though we are well educated and rich, if our mind is polluted with negative thoughts, we are not successful because we are unhappy. Negative thoughts, defilements, disturb our peace of mind. Defilements, negative emotions, negative volitions. And what are the negative thoughts that arise in our mind and disturb our peace of mind? There are three major negative thoughts, developments, which arise in our mind and disturb our peace of mind. What they are? They are anger, greed, and ignorance. These are the three major unwholesome thoughts which arise in our mind. And what is the major reason of these three defilements? Ignorance. Ignorance is the main reason. If we can overcome ignorance, then automatically other two defilements, anger and greed, fall down. What is the ignorance that we have in our mind? According to Buddhism, ignorance can be divided into two. One of them is unknowing the karmic law. In our background, there is something which forces our life, that is the karmic law, karmic energy. Some people don't believe it. Actually, one of the major reasons that influence our life is karmic law. Unknowing the karmic law is one of the steps of ignorance. What is the second one of ignorance? What is the second level of ignorance? Unknowing the impermanence. What is the real life that we have? What is the reality in the life? We usually think, when we experience something through our senses, we think that still it is happening. We usually get a same example that when somebody has blamed us, as soon as we remember that incident, our mind immediately goes to the past experience. Not only going to the past experience, that our mind lives in the past experience. But sometimes that person doesn't know that we are thinking about him. A person can blame us once, Buddha says. When we are ignorant, we are blamed again and again by our ignorance. Therefore, if we can overcome ignorance, whatever we think, if we are intelligent to understand, now I read my mind, we can remember that incident, but we don't suffer, we don't get angry, because of our intelligence and mindfulness. Even though we are intelligent, if we are not mindful, then we are away from happiness, we are away from wisdom. For that, the second level, the deeper level that we should reach is wisdom. Wisdom is the main thing whether we are happy. As much as we can improve our wisdom, intelligence in our life, then this is the main reason that we are happy. That is why wisdom is highly appreciated in Buddhism. Buddha says, Panya naranang ratanang. Wisdom is the most valuable gem of men. And Panyaya parisujjati. Wisdom purifies our mind. And this Panya, wisdom, is the wealth, very valuable wealth in our life. And that is why there is a very good story in Buddhism. One day, in the palace of King Kosala in Buddha's time, as we mentioned before, that there were two children. One of them is of kings, the other one was of a servant. Both of them were born in the same day. Therefore, the king decided to feed both of them in the palace in a room. And one day, one of boys, that the king's son, realized his previous life, and he knew that he was a monk in his previous lives. And also, as a monk, he practiced generosity, virtue and wisdom. And also, then he realized that he had other friend who was the same monk, Buddhist monk. And he saw, where is my friend? Then he saw the person who is in a mat, who was very poor, and the son of the servant. He also was in the same room in a mat, because he was the son of the servant. He was on the floor. But the king's son was on the bed with the luxurious facilities. And then that king's son asked, my friend, yours one of the friends who was with me in the previous Buddha's period, and I advise you to practice generosity. You practice virtue and wisdom, but you didn't practice generosity. That is why you are on the mat. Then what that boy tells that, my friend, don't be hurry, and there is no difference whether that I am in the mat or in the bed, because everywhere there is only thing that the four elements. What are the elements? Earth, fire, water, wind. Everywhere we can see these four elements. then he saw that incident wisely with intelligence. Then if we are wise, if we are intelligent, actually even though we have no enough facilities, we can overcome suffering. We have a lot of differences in the world because of ignorance. When we go to the deeper level, we can see the world in the same way, as same. That is one of the incidents that we can get for example, that here we should understand the importance of wisdom. Little by little, we should increase our wisdom. And at the very beginning, on the path of liberation, Buddha said, the path of heaven. In wisdom, we can explain the world as heavenly path and deliverance path. In first, Buddha explained to the world how we become a blissful life. Now all of us have received a very blissful life. That is why we have these kind of facilities and intelligence. For that, in wisdom, Buddha says the importance of understanding of the heavenly path, how we reach a blissful life. For that, Buddha says we have to practice 3 meritorious deeds in the heavenly path. What is the heavenly path? Heavenly path means the way how to achieve a blissful life. For that, Buddha says we have to generate positive thoughts as merits. There are 3 meritorious deeds that we can see in Buddhism that Buddha has explained. What they are? Generosity. Yes, practicing generosity and practicing virtue and practicing meditation. These are the 3 meritorious deeds that we can do for the benefits of next birth. Not only for a blissful life, actually they are beneficial to have a good life in this life. If we practice these kind of things, actually we generate positive thoughts and we develop our happiness. That is why Buddha says, practice in merit means increase in happiness. When we develop merits, for example, if we have helped others, if we are generous, if we have a moral life, then when we think our character, our behavior, we can be happy that I have done this kind of activities in our life, then we are so happy. Especially Buddha says, Punyam Sukhan Jivita Sankhayamhi. At the end of a life, we can be happy when we think our life. Especially day by day, we go to the old age. We are aging. We are going to decay. When somebody is very beautiful in his young age, they are so happy. But when people go to the old age, what happens to them? Yes, they are unhappy. Because they trusted in their physical body. Gradually the body is going to old age. They are unhappy. But if we have done a lot of merits, actually we are gratitude to our physical body. When we think our old body, we can think, I have done this kind of good deeds with my hands, with my legs, with my physical body, then we are not unhappy. We can overcome unsatisfactoriness if we have done a lot of merits throughout our physical body. That is why we have to complete these kind of meritorious deeds in our life. Then we are so grateful to our physical body. And also, even though we have done a lot of merits in our life, even though our relatives, especially our children, are successful, end of our life, actually we have no real happiness. What is the reason? Yes, we are subject to live, and also there are other reasons. There are 3 reasons that a Buddha appears in the world. What they are? One of them is decay or old age. Decay. The other one is yes, death. And the next one is rebirth. These are the real challenges in our life. Sometimes we think that if we have no money, if our children are not successful, we are failed. Actually, those are not the big challenges in our life. There are 3 major challenges that we have in front of us. They are decay, aging. Day by day we go to the old age. That is one of the major challenges in our life. The other thing is we are reaching the death day by day. One of them is the decay. Day by day we are going to find in the stick. And the next one is day by day we are reaching the cemetery. And also not only we die, but the biggest challenge that we have according to Buddhism is the ability to go to the down levels, health. That is the biggest challenge. Just rebirth is not the problem. The problem is the ability to go to the down levels, like health. This is the biggest challenge. Buddhism has explained the way how we overcome these major challenges before we die. The special thing is, before we die, we can overcome the suffering of death. All other religions has explained their liberation after death. But the special thing in Buddhism is that Buddhism has explained the final destination, the liberation, enlightenment, before we die. That is the important thing in Buddhism. As soon as we enlighten, then we have overcome decay, rebirth and death. And we will discuss how we overcome these challenges in our life. Here, especially according to Buddhism, understanding of deliverance path is very important. This is the very special thing in Buddhism, because before Buddha was born in the world, a lot of people, religious people, had realized how they become a blissful life. They knew the karmic law before Buddha appeared in the world. The karmic law is not the special thing in Buddhism, but usually people think that this is the main thing in Buddhism. Actually, the knowledge of karmic law depends on conventional truth. What is the conventional truth? Before we were born, there was a world. After we die, the world further remains. It is true, but only according to conventional truth. All religions, all teachings, philosophies depend on the conventional truth. What is the nature of the conventional truth? Before we were born, there was a world. We live in the world which was made before we were born. After we die, the world remains. Actually, it is true, but only according to conventional truth. Even karmic law depends on the conventional truth. It is not the special thing in Buddhism, because all people have realized, discovered this reality. But the special thing in Buddhism, the ultimate truth, What is the ultimate truth? Ultimate truth means we create the world. When we open our eyes, we create the world. When we open our ears, we create the world. World arises when we open our senses. When we close our senses, the world ends without remaining anything. Every moment we create the world. For example, when we close the door fridge, the bulb off. But when we again open the door, yes, we can see the light there.
The balloon and the gem is a good example.
Sorry?
Do you remember the balloon and the gem?
What
you mentioned last week. That's a good example.
Yes.
Remember the balloon and the gem? Do you explain?
Yes. 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 This is another example. That when we open the door, we can see that is shining bulb. Again, when we close it off. And our experience also like that. When we open eyes, then it is like that we open the fridge. But because of our ignorance, after we close the door, we think that still the light is shining. When we see our children, we know, this is my children. Then after we go away, we think that still my children is here. Children are here. Like no children know that the light in the fridge, still it is happening. And every moment we open the door and close. When we open our eyes, we open the door of fridge. When we hear something, then we open another door. When we think something, again we open the door. According to six senses, again and again we open the door of our life, like fridge. But immediately it ceases. But our ignorance doesn't accept it. Still the experience happening, we think that. But we have only one experience at once. When you think your children, your entire life is your children. When you think your car, which is on the street, then your entire life is your car. When you think your mom, your entire life is your mom. Then other 5 lights are put off. We have only one experience at once. It is also impermanent. For example, when you remember your children, when you remember your son, if you think that my children is well educated, my children is very clever to study, then you are happy. Then again you think that your son's misbehavior, if you think, then you get upset. And when sometimes your children is sick, then you are so compassionate. Then your ideas, your emotions are not same. It is different from time to time. We usually think that the ideas of my children and things are same every moment. But it is different from every moment. According to our present mental conditions, every moment it arises and ceases. When you remember someone who has blamed you, then you get upset. Then again you think that that person has helped you when you were studying. then you are happy with that person. Then again you think that that person was admitted to the hospital with a very big injury. Then you are so compassionate. Your heart is very warm. The idea of your friend is different from place to place, from moment to moment. And if we can understand this reality according to the deliverance path, according to the ultimate truth, according to the dependent origination, actually we can overcome suffering. For that, we have to develop, especially, we have to develop a special thing that, what is that? Yes, mindfulness. What is the mindfulness? The awareness of our mind and body. If we can keep our full attention in our mind and body, in the present moment, we know very well what happens to my mind, what happens to my body. Then negative emotions come to my mind, we know very well, now I have these kind of emotions. Then we can identify those negative emotions. And also, by seeing those emotions with intelligence, with wisdom, the understanding of the dependent origination, impermanence, arising and ceasing, then immediately we can overcome suffering. Whenever we are unhappy, whenever we are suffering, be sure we are away from mindfulness. For example, there are ships on the ocean, and when the ships are on a voyage, then it goes here and there. But the ship reached the harbor and anchored, then it has a safety. Our mind is like that. When our mind is without mindfulness, it has no safety. Like the ship which is on a voyage. And where is the harbor that we can anchor our mind? Mindfulness is the harbor. When our mind is in mindfulness, then mind is anchored in the harbor. Whenever we are away from mindfulness, be sure we are away from suffering, we are away from happiness, we are in suffering. And that is why Buddha said, practicing mindfulness is the only way to achieve enlightenment. Practicing mindfulness is the only way to achieve wisdom. Mindfulness is the only way to overcome suffering. Mindfulness is the only way to liberate from suffering. And our success depends on our happiness. Our happiness depends on how far we have overcome defilements. Overcoming defilements depend on how far we have overcome ignorance. Decreasing ignorance depends on how far we have generated wisdom. And also, the cessation of suffering depends on how far we have developed mindfulness, how far we have practiced mindfulness. That is why we always get an example like that, GPA. Buddhist GPA, grade point average, is the duration of practicing mindfulness. If we can improve the time of duration of practicing mindfulness, it means our GPA in Buddhism is very high. Not only mindfulness that we should have, sometimes you may think that forgetting your past and future is the message of the Buddha. Actually, that is not the message of the Buddha. Some psychiatrists recommend to their client who are stressed to practice mindfulness. They say that forget your past, forget your future, keep your mind in the present moment. But Buddhism never says that to forget your past or future. We can remember anything that we experienced in the past, but we should be aware of that now I am reading my mind. When we practice mindfulness, actually our memory gradually increases. As we mentioned before, after we enlighten, actually we can remember even when we were in the mother's womb. Not only mother's womb, but Arhantas who have psychic energy, they can remember their 500 great eons in their past. 500 great eons. Mahakalpa, 500. How about the Buddha? Buddha can remember everything in his past without any limit. Memory is not the fault. You can remember the figure, you can remember the reflection which was in the mirror when you went to the mirror. But you know very well now your reflection is not in the mirror. You can remember your face, but you have no problem. But how about when you remember your house, your children? You think that is still there happening. They are there. Actually they are there, but only according to the conventional truth. According to ultimate truth, we have only one experience at once. When we think something, our entire life is that experience. If we can succeed this present moment with mindfulness and wisdom, then we can succeed our entire life. And that is why we have to practice again and again. Buddha says, the first thing is very important is having understanding. Knowledge is very important. Knowledge is the first step on this path. This is the first step. And we should listen to this message as it is. And then we have to reflect on it again and again. Reflection. What is the reflection? According to this reality, according to this impermanence, we have to think again and again. Not only you are in the classroom, not only you are in the shining room, from morning to night. If we can reflect on this reality again and again, this understanding is going to be certain. And also by practicing meditation. The third one is meditation. Training our mind, keeping our attention in the present moment with concentration. If we can concentrate our mind in the present moment, then we can reflect on this reality in the deep level. That is why Buddha has explained concentration meditation and insight meditation. Day by day, we should increase the duration of the period that we practice meditation. Especially, we can practice meditation in the sitting posture, and not only sitting meditation, but when we do anything from morning to night, we can practice meditation, such as, loving kindness meditation, we can practice everywhere, not only as a sitting meditation. And again and again, we are aware of our mind. We don't give any chance to any emotions to disturb our peace of mind. When our mind is polluted with anger, greed, jealousy. We know very well, now I have these kind of emotions. And suddenly those negative emotions go away. And that is why Buddha says, defeating hundreds of enemies in the battlefield is not difficult. It is not the important thing. The very important thing is that if you can train your only mind, if you can protect your mind, if you can defeat negative emotions, that is better than defeating hundreds of enemies in the battlefield. The real enemies are inside, not outside. What are the enemies which disturb our peace of mind? Yes, anger, greed, and ignorance. If we can overcome these negative emotions from our mind, actually day by day we can go away from suffering. And our happiness depends on how far we have reduced these negative emotions from our mind, especially ignorance. We mostly live in the past or future. When we see somebody who has blamed you, then immediately, suddenly your mind goes to past. Not only going to past, but we live in the past experience. That person blamed me one day. Then immediately we think that incident. Actually remembering is not the fault. Memory is not the fault. When we think that incident, if our mind is fixed in the past experience, that is the fault. That is the cause of suffering. We can remember anything, but we can remember that incident laughing, without anger, without fear. And that is why first we have to understand this reality, how suffering arises, and also we should reflect on it again and again. Finally, by practicing meditation, we are going to be certain in this understanding. And this is the path that Buddha explained how we overcome suffering. Day by day, we should go forward by practicing wisdom. Buddha said, as soon as Buddha attained enlightenment, when he went to deliver his first sermon, he explained his understanding. He says, my I arose, and also enlightenment arose, wisdom arose. Buddha said, Chakkuna udapadi, Jnanam udapadi, Panya udapadi, Vidya udapadi, Aloka udapadi. Science arose, wisdom arose, light arose, I arose, enlightenment arose. What is the enlightenment that he achieved? That then is his mind completely understood that the nature of ignorance. Ignorance means that whenever we live in the past or future, without this reality, without the understanding of reality, we are in suffering. And if we can keep our full attention in the present moment, seeing impermanence, that is the way that we can go away from suffering. Have you any question in this sermon? Here, this is a very important thing, is impermanence or dependent origination. The heart of Buddhism is the dependent origination, Paticcasamuppada. There are three characteristics that Buddha has explained. Trilakshana: impermanence, suffering, and egolessness. These are the three characteristics which should be understood. And Buddha has proclaimed the Four Noble Truths. What is the Four Noble Truths? That the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of origin of suffering, the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, the noble truth of the path that leads to get rid of suffering. What is the suffering? The first thing is that unknowing of the five aggregates. Whatever we experience through our senses, at that moment, five aggregates arise. What are the five aggregates? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Form, feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These five things are together. When you see this flower, you may think that there is a flower. Actually, the bottom level of this experience of flower is five aggregates. Five aggregates are the final understanding that we have any experience through our six senses. But we can see the five aggregates because of our ignorance. Our mind is fixed in these flowers. Then we are not away from suffering. When flower changes, we get suffering. If we have deeper understanding about the reality, what we experience through our senses, suddenly we know everything through five aggregates. It doesn't mean that we don't see the beauty. Actually, we can see the beauty. For example, when you see the Mirigua, mirage, you can see it. Mirage can be see anyone. You can be happy seeing it, but you never run following the mirage. You can see the beauty. This beauty also like that. But the, innocent deer runs towards the mirage. Our eyes also like that. We can see anything, but as soon as we see something, we can appreciate something. We can appreciate this flower. It doesn't matter. But we know very well the reality of this experience. Then we are intelligent and also we are away from suffering. And that is why Buddha says, if somebody can understand this reality, the impermanence, the dependent origination, that person find a path how we overcome suffering. As soon as somebody listening to this message, he wants to get this experience throughout practicing this path. Then he find a path. Then he see the eightfold path. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, right understanding, right intention, right view, right speech, right action. There are eightfold paths. And finally Buddha says, although we have to practice a lot of doctrines in Buddhism, finally we have to practice only two. What they are? They are concentration and wisdom. Concentration and wisdom depend on mindfulness. Mindfulness is the field where concentration and wisdom grow. Mindfulness. Whenever we are in the mindfulness, Buddha says, you have a protection, safety, refuge. That because you are in the field of the Buddha. We are field we are field of our mother and father. Whenever we are away from mindfulness, we are in the field of the Mara, devil. We have no real safety. And be mindful and also be intelligent, reflecting on impermanence every moment. Day by day, please try to develop your mind. And especially, Buddha says in first, that is very important to practice in one side. There are other primary negative emotions that disturb our peace of mind on this path. They are greed. When you are greedy, you are not ready to enter this path. That is why we should practice generosity. First, you can help your parents, your husbands, your wives, your children at home. Then little by little you can develop it. When you see some homeless person, virtuous person, you can help them. You can offer something to them with kind heart. That is the way how we can overcome greed. When we have covetousness, then it is very difficult to enter this path. On the other side, anger. In the discourse of mindfulness, in first Buddha says, Vinaya loke abhijja domanasam. In this path, in first, we have to overcome abhijja, covetousness, greed. And also, domanasa means anger, ill will. When we are angry, our mind is not ready to go to this path. That is why Buddha says in Karanyametta Sutta, you should practice loving kindness to overcome anger. By the practicing of loving kindness, as a result of practicing loving kindness, as soon as you see a person, your mind is ready to see that person as your only son. All people in the world, actually they were our close relatives and friends in our previous lives. Even though now they are far away from us, actually they were our close relatives and friends. They have helped us a lot in this samsaric journey. We should be kind to them. We should be compassionate. We should have a warm heart if we know the samsaric journey. And that is why Buddha says it is very useful to practice loving kindness to overcome anger in the name of happiness. If you want to achieve inner peace, you have to practice loving kindness in first. If you don't start to practice loving kindness, it means you haven't started to your deliverance path, your peace of mind. Have any question? Okay, now we are going to end our sermon, and you can read this article. Every week we prepare a handout, and you can read it, you can improve your understanding. And also first we practice meditation, and after that we do this discussion. And finally, as the result of practicing this path, Buddha says that there are 5 qualities gradually increase as the result of practicing this path. What are the qualities that we have as our wealth? Buddha pointed out the real wealth that we have in our life, which comes from birth to birth. What is our real dowry? Buddha explains the real dowry that we earn. There are 5 spiritual faculties. 5 spiritual faculties. What they are? The first one is confidence in the Buddha's enlightenment. Confidence. We should have a confidence. Whatever we do, first we should have some kind of confidence. Without confidence, we can't do anything. And the second one is, yes, energy, very good, energy. What kind of energy that we should have? We should have an energy to do good deeds, and also we should have an energy to overcome negative emotions. Both of them are very important. And the third one, mindfulness. Mindfulness is the center of these 5 things. It is middle. And the fourth one, as the result of practicing mindfulness, our mind is concentrated little by little. We have an ability to keep our mind for a long time in a particular wholesome object. Concentration. Concentration. With concentrated mind, we reflect on impermanence, then we develop our wisdom. Buddha says, as soon as mind is concentrated, then we see the world reality. Because we started this path with the knowledge of dependent origination. You know, there were some ascetic people, when Buddha appeared in the world, they stopped in this level. Concentration. Because they didn't know the final solution. Dependent origination. And they are realized only 5 hindrances. But after Buddha appeared in the world, Buddha introduced, Buddha realized, discovered, proclaimed the 6th hindrance, that is ignorance or delusion. And here we have to reflect on impermanence, then our wisdom gradually increases. This is like the light in something. This is light. Concentration. How about wisdom? Wisdom is like writing a letter in the light. Although lights are put off, the letter that we wrote remains. Wisdom is like that. Okay, thank you for your good attention. Now we are going to end our sermon, and this time we are going to transfer the merits. Have you any question? And now the time to transfer the merits to our departed relatives. You know, every sermon, end of every sermon, we usually transfer the merits to our beloved departed relatives. Now this is the time to that. And by the power of all these merits, that by practicing meditation, listening to Dhamma, purifying your mind, you have generated a lot of positive thoughts. By the power of all these positive thoughts, may our departed relatives receive these merits, and may they rejoice with these merits, and may they also attain final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's transfer these merits to our departed beloved relatives. Reciting the Gatha. Idam me ñāti nam hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñāti nam hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñāti nam hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. By the power of all these merits, may guardian deities and angels also receive these merits, and may they enhance their spiritual energy. May they keep their eye on you and your family members. May they also attain final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's transfer these merits to our guardian deities and angels too. Akasatta ca bummatta devahanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu sasanam. Akasatta ca bummatta devahanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu desanam. Akasatta ca bummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu tvang sada. By the power of all these merits, may you be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you. May no problems come to you. May your all righteous wishes meet with success. May all of us attain final bliss of liberation. Sadhu, sadhu. Dukkham pantāca niddukkhaṃ bhayam pantāca nirvayam sokam pantāca nissokam hantu sambe pipanino.